I'm going to get us started with the little program that we have for today. I'm Mary Beth. I work at the Center for Community and Nonprofit Studies along with many other amazing team members who are here with us tonight. And I just want to really acknowledge the people that work to make sure we have this delicious food and this nice space set up and all the materials. And now they're outside of the room and they can't even hear me. So make sure you say thanks to Michaela especially, and Maria and Liz and others that have been involved with this. Laura, you'll hear from. Our associate director, Amy, will be here soon. Just Alex is here, Costanza is here. We've got team members that really make this all go. So be curious about that and who's behind the center and with the center, and make sure you tell them what you liked about today. And if you have other feedback that we can improve upon things, we would like to hear that too. So we are a center here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison that does teaching, research, and outreach related to the civil society, community, and nonprofit sectors. So lots of amazing work that happens across the breadth of that sector. If you want to think of it as one sector, we have a bunch of students in here tonight from our purpose-driven organizations class, which is an upper level undergraduate class, and they've just gone through 2 months worth of understanding the history and the scope of that sector, and then drilling down into how do those organizations really work on the inside. So you've got some new experts in the room with you tonight if you want to talk more about what is the sector anyway. We're thinking about it a little bit more broadly than just nonprofits. So tonight we are going to just have a little bit of time for a couple of flash talks. At these once a semester Commons Connect events, our goal is usually to just give a space in Madison where people that are in town of our network, which is only a subset because we have partners all over the state and all over the world, but for those that are in Madison or near Madison, we want to give them a chance to get together in real life with our students, with our faculty, with our staff, with those community partners that are doing the work, just to connect informally, but also if we can use these times as an opportunity to highlight the work of some of our partners, whether those be scholars or people in the field, we give them a chance to do flash talks. So tonight we have 3, they'll be fairly quick, and then we're gonna give a few awards, and then it's open for more food and chatting and networking. And I know a lot of our students have to go around 5:15, so they might start fading out. Everybody's welcome to stay as long as they would like. So I think that's what I wanted to share. I would love it if you would all kind of keep in touch with what's going on when we send out those emails, follow us on social media. That's a good way to stay connected with the many other things we're doing. And I'm not going to spend time talking about those tonight. So you'll have to just keep up with us in other ways. So the order of our flash talks, and we're just going to have you come up in order, is Way Forward, David's Educational Opportunity Fund, Damon, and then I'm going to share a little something about the civics games on behalf of Eve Galanter, who's an affiliate who could be. So Way Forward, folks. Are you willing to come up and share your? Oh, there's a QR code if you want to know where to find us online. But also we're taking your email tonight, so I'm sure you're going to get our stuff. Okay. Thanks for being here and doing this.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. We are here from Way Forward Resources. If you're familiar with Middleton Outreach Ministry or MOM, that's us. Our name changed last summer. And so I have our mission up here. We bring our community together to create food and housing security through action and advocacy. So you have myself, I'm Taylor Rosman, I'm the Housing Stability Director. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Megan Ernstine, I'm a food access manager.
So after we talk, let me back up for a second. We are not as connected with Commons as I would really like to be. Way Forward, because we're in Middleton, is inherently a little bit separate from the UW and separate from a lot of the services that are provided and that y'all support. We have some opportunities that we can connect a little bit more, and it would be really cool if this sounds interesting to you, if we could have some further conversations and try to get more involved. But you've got me here for housing questions or conversations, and Megan for food. So briefly about Way Forward's work, we've got food access programs that serve all of Dane County. We can provide free food and clothing at our building at Way Forward. We've got day of registration for anybody who needs it. So people can come visit us and can go shopping for food and or can receive food delivered to them if they don't have transportation and live on the west side of Madison or in Middleton area. And we have a couple of apartment complexes that we bring a mobile food pantry to, and are hoping that in the next year or two, we can make a community mobile food pantry, where it will just exist in probably an apartment parking lot or an outdoor space that folks could come to if it's easier for them to access that than our physical building. We're open Tuesday through Saturday for food and clothing, and those hours are available online. And our housing stability programs are smaller. We only serve the Middleton Cross Plains School District and the west side of Madison. We can do eviction prevention services. We can provide financial assistance to stop evictions, case management, and referrals to other partners. And we kind of end up getting just questions and comments about anybody who needs housing support. If we can't provide that service, we usually know kind of some other ideas or who we can help connect folks to. Our case managers are in the office from 9 until 4:30 on weekdays. And I just have a little bit of numbers information. Our food access programs served 13,000 unique people last year, and gave out over 1 million pounds of food. And our housing stability program, because of our smaller service area, is able to provide some more support for people who live there. But we know that the resources are needed all across Dane County. We were able to work with 729 households in the last year, and we gave out just over $500,000 in financial assistance. The best ways that we know to connect so far are volunteer roles. We have a lot of existing volunteer roles with different schedules and levels of commitment, all the way from a one-time 1 or 2 hour opportunity that people can sign up for through Megan, or sign up for online, to we sometimes have people who come and volunteer 3 days a week for multiple pantry shifts. There's some housing options or ways that people can support our front desk and are kind of, it's not exactly a crisis line, but the line that fields all the calls about all of our programming. And we do have internship opportunities both in food and in housing. We have opportunities for folks to donate. I have to say the financial contributions thing, just because we know that all of our programs in community and nonprofit studies need the budget in order to do the work. But we also can receive support in the form of food, clothing, personal care items. So like laundry detergent, if you have a shampoo that you got and used once, it doesn't work, those items can be redistributed to folks who need them through us. And grocery bags. This past month, we had to spend $2,000 on buying paper and plastic bags because our pantry was out of those items. And we know that the community is receiving them every time you go to Woodman's, every time you go to Whole Foods. If you've got reusable grocery bags, we can take those too. We're starting to communicate with folks who are visiting us to bring their own bags when they can. But any $2,000 that we have to spend on bags, we don't get to spend on food. You can also host food and clothing drives, and you can learn more. There's 2 QR codes up there about the work that we're doing. The very first one will give you, the arrows are not quite in the right places, but information about our annual report from last year. And the lower QR code is the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy, where our housing team has been working with everybody in Dane County on a 5-year plan to have more stable housing for the community. We also offer tours of our location, and you can kind of get connected to the other opportunities, the volunteering and donation opportunities on site, talking to somebody on our staff. If you want to get involved, please get in touch. My email address and Megan's are there. And we are on the F-Bus line, if that is helpful for anybody to know. That's all.
So let's see, I press this. Yes. So my name's Mike Bird. This is Maggie Felker. We're the founders and directors of David's Educational Opportunity Fund. We're Madisonians of many years. I taught an unknown number of decades in the Department of Philosophy here. Maggie has a master in English linguistics and nursing from the university here. This may sound irrelevant, but in fact, it's proved important in the work we do in Ecuador. The backstory is this. In the summer of 2002, our son David, who was a student at Beloit College and an exchange student in Ecuador, disappeared near the towns of Zamora in the southeast sort of rainforest, mountainous area, and disappeared means disappeared forever. Trying to cope with this sort of unimaginable event in our lives, we found ourselves unimaginably working as volunteer teachers in a Jesuit mission to the poor in Quito called the Centro del Muchacho Trabajador. I am not a religious person, so this was even more unusual. Maggie taught health and some other things. I taught middle school math to people 13, 14, up to 19 years old. And as you would imagine, I encountered in my classes young people like the students I taught here, with the intellect, the character, the quality of person that I worked with for a lot of years. But they didn't have any resources to go any further with their lives. So gradually, me and some friends of mine here started supporting students, 1, then 2, then 4, then 6. When we got to 6, and I was draining our coffers, Maggie said, we need to stop this and do something kind of formal and official. And so David's Educational Opportunity Fund was born in 2012. What do we do? Well, we help young people go to Ecuadorian universities. Right now we have 15 in Ecuadorian universities. That's doable in Ecuador. Maggie and I and people who donate to this do not have the resources to do this in the United States. So, but in Ecuador, it is manageable. We have 15 in a variety of areas: architecture, nursing, law, education. We've learned, I mean, we've now been in this business for a while, and we've learned for these are first generation students. Many of the parents of our students have 6th grade educations. Some can't write or read. We've learned that what we need to do as an organization to have, for these students to have success, is to really do encompassing services. So we provide additional educational help, various kinds of emotional support, mental, dental, medical, vision services. And when you do things this way, what we discover is that you succeed. We've worked with now about 50 students. We've lost 3. This sounds unbelievable, but it's actually true. So this is our group. We have a number. We work with donors in the U.S. We're not professional fundraisers, and so we're an organization that looks like it's run by not people who are not professionals at this.
The true mom and pop.
Yeah, yeah, that's us. And but this is our way of honoring our son. It's a way of involving ourselves in a broader community, which helps you understand better many things you see around you. It's the Wisconsin idea run rampant. And so I think that's what we
think
get up.
we have
I'll
one
show
more
the
slide.
last thing. Yep. So, we actually have increasingly worked very hard to find jobs for our students in the Ecuadorian economy. I mean, the Ecuadorian economy is rough work. And
I'm also working on developing something with you and a global civil health initiative, right? So it's spreading.
so, I should just say opportunities. We could talk to someone about internships. Who knows where that would actually go? Maggie and I go back to Ecuador. We lived in Ecuador a number of years. We go back to Ecuador once a year at the minimum. Maggie was just there.
Yes.
And so for other kinds of volunteer work, one thing that Maggie has organized that's really been successful is an English language partnership with our students. The way that works is we connect people with one of our students. Our students, it's an enormous benefit to learn to speak English. People, especially people who have few resources, really don't have the opportunity to converse with native English speakers. And so it's a big benefit, and Maggie's organized, I think she has 15 going, 10 to 15 going.
It's really fun.
So that's us.
And there's a lot of interesting work to be done. And we'd love to have an intern. So talk to us if you're interested in that, especially if you're bilingual. It's a great, it's fun because maybe you'd even get to come to Ecuador with us. That's fun. Interesting.
Well, you're
It's
not,
really
with, you're
fun.
not with us, it's fun. Bueno.
You have a lot of young people that you would hang
Yeah,
out
that would
with.
be
if you
fun.
were here. Although we are fun.
All right, so I will apologize. There were some fires this week that kept me from putting together slides. Can everybody hear me all right?
I think we at least have a slide that says Damon.
Oh,
At least
cool.
the-
Damon, that's good. I have a different practice name than legal last name. You can find me under either, but I'm Damon, and in this town that usually is enough. I grew up here. I was born some 6 blocks south, right? And sorry, the feedback is a little weird. Is it okay if I start?
Yeah.
Okay, so I came through the undergrad program here at Community Nonprofit Leadership, which is what we called it back then. Clearly an inferior name, which is why we had to rename it. But I learned a lot of things. I met a lot of mentors. I even met one of my current business partners. What do I do now and what brings me here? I started a small nonprofit law firm. We also operate in cooperative fashion. I'll get back to that in a second. We provide a lot of services for this community. We do eviction defense and security deposit work with tenants. We help folks deal with wills and trust and estates, especially in families that are now worried that the fundamental structure of how they love is under attack, right? We do educational work with the community. Just yesterday night, I was on the campus doing a name change workshop that had some 60 attendees. And I like to think that 60 people going to go 1-0 against the state of Wisconsin, right? And assert their rights. And that stuff gets me going. I got into the work of law because of my experiences with violence. I'm a Black man from Dane County. That should not surprise you if you've been attending your classes. But I see how that permeates how we do things as much as how it comes from outside, right? The ways we make decisions, the ways we distribute power, the ways that we actualize our values matter, right? And I'm very passionate about helping people practice those values all the way through their organization. The first time I walked away from this university was because I didn't respect anybody I knew with a college degree. I was trying to be a teacher and they wouldn't let me teach. So I took some time and I worked in nonprofits and I organized. And I thought that was awesome, but it felt really weird to be an at-will employee trying to prevent violence. I then took some time and I worked in co-ops and I was like, this is really, really cool. We all have this decision-making power. That's really rad. What do we do with that? And they were like, we make sure our bills are paid. And I was like, that is very cool. I'm into that, but also maybe there's something else. And so I really like this term you all used about mission-driven organizations, because I even recoil against the idea of a third sector. People didn't work for profit first, right? We work for each other because we have things we like to do for each other and we have things we need to get done. And so putting that first, I think, leads to a more efficient structure and outcome, right? And that's why I put that into practice in my firm. But what I really want to convey, one of the things that I do especially, and the thing I think is most relevant to today, is I support organizations with that mission-driven focus, whether that's a co-op, a nonprofit, a small business, people who seek to do something over seeking to hoard something, right? And the reason I make that clarification is that legally speaking, profit is surplus made by one person that is taken home by another. I generally work outside of that space, which leaves me a lot of creativity with what I do and what I support. And similarly, one of the reasons I practice this particular branch of law is because of how hard it is for me to walk into courtrooms and demand that people be treated with respect and demand that burdens are upheld, right? That I can't do all day. But what fills my cup is when people come into my office and they say, I have a dream for how I'm going to make the world just a little bit better. And I'm confused. Is this something I can do? Because almost invariably, the answer is yes. The space of business creation, the space of nonprofit creation is incredibly wide open. The law on it is compassionate. Every time people come to the court to decide business law, the court's like, oh, yeah, there's probably reasonable parties on both sides and I should consider their options and make a just decision. The practice of equity is alive as a parallel tradition to law that has been lost almost everywhere but Delaware. And it's rooted in our relationships to each other and the justified expectations that those create that a court will enforce. And so I really like when I'm talking to folks that do nonprofit work and do mission-driven work to remind you that your container is also something that not only you can develop and change, but I would argue you should take some interest in. Some of y'all are young folks that are about to enter the workforce for the first time. My sister said to me my sister works with me the other day. She said to me, it's really hard to help people out of cages if you don't leave your own, bud. I'm like, damn, you got to write that down for me. It is really difficult to do this work. I understand the exigencies that push us to self-exploit and to abuse each other. I'm not going to excuse it. And I think it's important for you all to hear and where you're at that you shouldn't excuse it either. Because the work that you do for people is important, right? And part of that is the example you set. I don't want another generation of people that do this work to think you don't make money because it's a nonprofit. You should make more money if no one's taking boats off the top, right? You have some standards of what you need and you need to learn yourself and be able to advocate for yourself. And sometimes organizations benefit from your making noise, from your telling them that this structure hurts me, from your leaving and also doing an exit interview and telling them courageously, this is why I can't work for you, even though I care about the babies and I want to feed the masses and I want to make sure people have homes, right? And if you can't find a shell that works for you, you can make one. It's hard, it's difficult, right? But so is every other approach. And so what I like to do is break down for people what those steps even are. I think your boss can hear it in your voice when you don't need them, when you know what the other option would be, right? And so I think we do better work when we're supported. I think we do better work when we hear the folks that do work directly and allow them an actual voice in how things should proceed. When we set ourselves up to work with the people in our office as opposed to against them or over them. I'm not a centrist on that, right? And that's okay, because there's a lot of approaches for a lot of people. So yes, I would love it if you all at some point went to smallacts.coop and filled out our intake form because you've got a brilliant idea and you want to sit down for an hour for free and chat about whether or not our fully sliding scale services are something you need or require. So yes, pitch, just snuck it in there. But I think one of the important things that I wanted to get done in the 5 minutes here is encourage you all to think about the context in which you operate as a part of the work that you do. And I don't know that that's something I got the first time I was here. So just to say that clearly, go ahead and talk to people and figure out, how are those decisions made? Where do those decisions get made? Even in the university, there used to be a tradition of direct governance by students over student issues, faculty over faculty issues. Why did we do that? And why now are so many administrators feeling so overwhelmed? Because it's like they're doing a committee worth of people's work, right? So I don't want to belabor the point too much. I can clearly get a little long-winded, but there are 26 nonprofit distinctions. Any business that's not taking money off of somebody else's labor theoretically is a nonprofit. There's a lot of ways you can make what you need if it doesn't already exist. So thank you all for doing that. Damon from Small Acts.
Thank you, Damon. As a fellow UW Law School grad, I also just want to recognize that you're not only a graduate of this program here, but also of UW Law School. That's perhaps understood from the fact that you have a law firm. Thanks, students, for coming and listening. And also, I want to just say that I have always loved your framing of the first sector.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to continue to try to keep that going into my work too.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to quickly represent one other affiliate that couldn't make it, but wanted to make sure that her initiative, their initiative, her and her collaborators was represented here. You may be aware that our center leads some civic health of Wisconsin work. And the Wisconsin Civics Games is one of the many organizations that's kind of in that network. But what they're doing is they're doing an annual event where high schoolers across Wisconsin compete in something like I don't know what the equivalent would be. There used to be like math competitions and things like that. But they're doing it for civics with the underlying understanding that our students are not getting enough and they can provide some oomph to students' civic preparation by this extracurricular endeavor. Meanwhile, there are good efforts happening in Wisconsin about upping the ante on our civics requirement in public schools. So watch that space, and we'll be talking about that in our report that we put out on civic health of Wisconsin in 2025, early 2025. So those are our flash talks for today. Maybe we'll kind of shift to our awards. I think the people that needed to head out did, but if you still need to, don't hesitate to get up or whatever. But I'm gonna ask our team to come up and quickly give out some well-deserved awards of collaborators of the Commons.